Let's stick with Southern Africa, where Zambia's central bank has raised interest rates some 5 times since 2023 started as the Southern African economy battles inflation. Speaking after the rest monetary policy meeting, the central bank governor, Dr. Denny Kalyaya, forecasts the country's inflation to remain sticky to the upside well into 2024 and 2025. Let's take a listen.
After the first review of the ECF, following the official creditors pronouncing themselves that they'll provide financial assurances by also moving us to getting the MOU, we received the second disbursement of the ECF funds. So that helped also to augment our position reserves. We have had other inflows in the form of loans that the government got, but must stress that during this period, we haven't had really large inflows to help meet some of our requirements. Now, the delayed restructuring that we have been talking about has had also an impact in the flows that we were expecting. So these are some of the challenges that go with that. Yes, there's a delay, but on the ground, we are still expected to meet our side of the bargain. And we have done so, as you heard yesterday, day before yesterday, when the IMF announced that we reached another staff level agreement, signifying that the ECF program is following the targets that we set. So all that has important implications for the period ahead. So we have to continue doing our part that we need to do. Each one of us has got a role. Ours is to look at price and financial system stability, as well as to manage the reserves of the country. Reserves rose to $2.9 billion at the end September, which represented 3.2 months of import cover from the 2.9 months of import cover at end June. Okay. Now, I said earlier that you'll come back to see what is happening in other parts of the world. What we are seeing is that the current global economic developments have also had adverse effects on domestic inflation. Global growth has remained subdued, and inflation in the most advanced economies is above target despite some moderation. So these other countries, they are doing exactly like what we are doing here to look out for their economies. And when they do so, the big economies, unfortunately, they are spillovers to us. What we are seeing is that there are these reverse flows in the way of portfolio investments. But because we are also dealing with the restructuring, we have had to put a cap on the participation of non-resident players in our domestic market. So that constrained the flow of resources that could have come had that not been the case. So with that, we see that the tightening in these other countries is having these adverse effects. And the projection or the outlook is that we are now in what may be termed as high interest rate era. And this is likely to continue for some time. So we may not have seen the last of the tightening that has been happening in many of these countries. But we are following these discussions and the interactions very closely to forearm ourselves. So now, as these financial conditions have been tightening, what has been happening is that to most major emerging economies and developing economies, which include us here, our exchange rates have come under severe pressure. So the chart on the right here is what is showing how some of the currencies that we picked to show what is happening, that there are others who have had some appreciation, but the great majority of countries are facing exchange rate pressures. On the chart there, you see that at the countries we are highlighting there, you have Nigeria there, the Nigerian Naira, the Angolan Kwanza, followed by the Turkish or Argentine peso. Not long ago, I think we have cited Argentina and Zambia'S having the West currencies, but that's the nature of the times. Then you have the Turkish lira, you have the Russian ruble, Zambian kwacha, the Kenyan shilling, Tanzanian shilling, so all the way to the Egyptian pound there. Then you see the South African rand has kind of crossed, it has picked up, as well as the Brazilian real and the Mexican peso are the ones which are showing that they strengthened. So the message is that we have these pressures which are not unique to us, but obviously we can't get consolation from the fact that others are not, because we are all uniquely affected. So our domestic circumstances matter a lot to us, and we have to do what we have to do, just like others are doing what they need to do. Domestic economic outlook. I did say that the prospects now are much brighter than what they were a few months ago when we spoke to you. So you see the chart on the right, the dotted lines there are showing focus by different groups, and you are seeing all of them without exception, they are showing some growth picking up. Some obviously more conservative than others, but the best message is that the prospects are good. Like I said now, when you say, but you are doing this, no, we want that to continue in a robust and sustainable way, because if we don't address inflation, it's a matter of time that will also get eroded. So we are at a point, especially that we are completing the restructuring process. There's rating upgrades that are likely to happen, because so far the credit rating companies have not revised their ratings for the country, and that is standing in the way of some of the players who could have played a role in our economy. But we are now looking at the prospect of this happening, and that should enable those who are sitting on the edge to come in and make their investment. So we are calling on all the economic agents to do their part in taking advantage of this. The information we get when we interact with others is that they are looking at a bullish situation. Now, the question is, will we be able to take advantage of that? If we don't, then it will be just like something, a passing phase. Will remain talking about potential again. So it's time we put into action some of those plans. If there were any, if there were not any, we must develop some very urgently and start to implement.